a second for people to join here. Okay, we're cooking now, right? Hey, everybody. Okay, I got Carol manning the chat here, and today we're going to talk about Beato Basics for Reharmonization. Just like last week, Beato Basics are not always that basic, but that's why I call them Beato Basics. Okay. This is kind of a review of reharmonizations. This can be used for any type of music. You can use it in rock music, jazz, classical music, your film scoring, whatever. Basically how to take a chord progression or any type of harmonic progression and give it some more spice, some more interest. Okay, we're going to talk about it. I've got 7 things written down here. I could probably add another 7 or so. But we'll start out with just a basic progression to kind of show how to do this. When I say basic progression, I'll do something in the key of C major. We'll start with a simple 2-5-1 progression, okay? G7, then C major 7. So we get D minor 7, G7, C major 7. You could have C major 7 for 2 bars, but first thing we'll talk about are extensions, okay? When I say extensions can be 9ths, 11ths, and 13ths, okay? Now, these can be on any of the chords. I could have extensions on each of these chords without changing the general quality of the chord. So we're not even talking about quality change. Quality would be making minor dominant, making dominant diminished, whatever. Major could become dominant, okay? We're just talking about extensions here. So, one of the ways we could do this is, let's say I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna make this a D minor 9. So that would be an extension, right? It's gonna sound simple for those of you, some of you, but it's gonna get really complex really fast. This G7 could become G13, and C major 7 could be C major 9, okay? Now, when you're talking about upper extensions, 7ths and 9ths, you're usually implying that they're actually that many notes away from the root if you use the scale. D minor 9, in this case, in the key of C, you'd be using a D dorian scale, okay? So, if you count 9 notes of a D dorian scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 9th note is E, which is the 9th of a D dorian scale. So that note is the 9th of the chord. So there's your D minor 9. So instead of having D minor 7, we have D minor 9, okay? G13, okay, G7, I put G13 if I take a G mixolydian scale, which is the scale that goes along with that. Let me just put this down. This is D dorian, this is G mixolydian, and this is C Ionian. Now, very simply, these are the modes, these 3 modes are in the key of C. Okay, you got C Ionian, D dorian, E Phrygian, F Lydian, G mixolydian, A Aeolian, B Locrian. Those are the 7 modes of C major, okay? So this is nothing really spectacular yet. G mixolydian, if I count 13 notes in the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, that note E is a 13 of a G7 chord, okay? So here's a G7, this is a G13. So if I go D minor 9 to G13, and then I've got C major 7. Once again, I'm going to count 9 notes from a C Ionian scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that'd be note D. And there's a C major 9 chord. So it'd be 2, 5, 1. That would be a reharmonization of a simple 2, 5, 1. Just gives it more color. 2, 5, 1. Now, it doesn't always give you the best voice leading. We have a common tone there. The note E on the D minor chord is the same note as the 13 of the G7 chord. So what I would do then is I would take this G7 and make it maybe a G7 sharp 5. Or you could call it G7 flat 13 if you'd like, flat 13. That's going to give you a voice leading. You're going to get a chromatic line. This is going to go to the note E to the note, this flat 6 is going to be E flat, or flat 13, going to D. This is our line. You always want to be thinking about voice leading. Voice leading is the most important thing in music, okay? In writing contrapuntal music, everything. So that would give us this, 2, 5, 1. So I've got the 9th of this to the flat 13 of this chord to the 9th of this chord, okay? Now, that would be an example of extensions. I can also use some other chords that are not so obvious with our extensions. I can take extensions from different scales, okay? Different scales that would go over these chords. I could do a D minor 7 flat 6, okay? Flat 6 or flat 13. I could do a G7 flat 9, let's say. I'll do sharp 9. I'm trying to think of a line here. No, that would be the same. We'll do flat 9. And then do C major 7, sharp 11. Okay? Now, once again, I have to find where those notes are. So this flat 6 on this D minor 7 chord, it could be a couple different places. You could have it in a low register, which would be there, and the flat 6 would be there, or I could do a flat 13, like that, or this, right? Or, that's a nice one. I put the 9th in there too, but there's your flat 13. And this G7 flat 9, I could do this. There's a flat 9. I put a 13 in there. So I did D minor 7 flat 6 to G13 flat 9 to C major 7 sharp 11. That is a sharp 11. Right? So 2, 5, 1, or, okay, I put the 9th in there too, or the 13 in there as well, but I'll make it more obvious there. So there's your 2, flat 6 on the top, flat 9 on the top, and then sharp 11 on the top. Okay, so that's a reharmonization using upper extensions. You can do other things. You know, I could do D minor 9 to G13, sharp 9 to C major 7, sharp 4, sharp 5. Okay, that's kind of cool. Listen. 2, 5, 1. Okay, it's really, really, really beautiful. That too. I had the 5th on the top, a D minor 9. Then I did a sharp 5 with a natural 9, but tritone sub on D flat. Natural 9 sharp. Natural 9 sharp 5, but tritone sub, which we'll get to after. To a C major 13. That's actually combining a couple things. I use the tritone sub when I'm going to actually do it down here. Okay. Next thing to do is the secondary dominant substitution, okay? So secondary dominant substitution could be a bunch of things here. Let's say you got D minor 7 here. This could be cool, and I could do a secondary dominant like this, to A7 to D minor 7 to G7 to C major 7. Okay, this is called a back cycle here, using this A7. So you go 2 to 5, 7 of 2, back to 2 to 5 to 1. Okay, This is your secondary dominant chord. It's the 5/7 of the 2 chord. That would sound like this. It'd be like 2, 5, 5 of 2, right? So 2, 5, 2, 5, 1. Okay? So if I'm playing something, let's say that, where's my pick? Got one right there, Carol? Look at you. Thank you. So let's say I'm playing over that. I'm improvising. Sit down here. Tell me if I'm in the picture or not. Carol, am I in the picture or not?
Yeah, we're kind of sitting low there. I
Okay.
mean, that's fine.
So I can go,
Almost a lick.
I played almost the lick. That would be using this secondary dominant. So if it would be
I'm gonna lower the cam.
what's that?
I'm gonna lower the camera a
You can
little.
lower it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how to use back cycling there. Right? So I'm doing D minor 7. So here's D minor 7. Then I'm going to the third of the A7 chord, then flat 9, root, flat 7, back to the third of the D minor 7. So right? So okay, so ba 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 boo, ba ba boo, ba boo. Okay, so that would be a way of using a secondary dominant chord on as a back cycling. I could also use it if I went like this. Let's see here. Let's say I did something like this. I could use it in this bar. D minor 7. Then I could go, let's see here. I could go A7, D7. No, let's go with this. We can put G7 last. This would be more like a cycling thing. We'll go D7 here, we'll go A7 here, we'll go E7. This would be an example of using secondary dominants, but using the cycle of fifths. Okay, so I've got the 5 to 1. This is a 5 of 5. This is a 5 of 5. And this is a 5 of 5. Remember what I said the other day? Anytime you have a dominant 7th chord, it's always the 5 chord in a key. Okay, so these are a series of 5/7 chords. 5/7 of 5, 5/7 of 5, 5/7 of 5, 5/7 of 1. Okay, these are all secondary dominants. Okay, I could have easily gone E7 to A minor 7, D minor 7 to G, but this works better. Okay, so that would sound like this. So if you went like this. That's the stuff you hear Joe Pass do a lot. That's actually changing the chord quality. That would be another way of doing it. You can also do, very simply, if you're going to do that, A simpler way of doing it would be you take your regular 2-5-1 and C here, and instead of using D minor 7 here, I'm going to just do D7 to G7 to C major 7. This would be a 5-7 of 5 to 5-7 to 1 major 7, okay? That's a more obvious way of using a secondary dominant chord. Okay, so you've replaced the D minor 7 and you've replaced it using a change of chord quality, going from minor to dominant, okay? But that's a way that you can use the secondary dominants. Now you can use secondary diminished seventh chords. I just actually gave you an example. Here's a good spot to use them that's very common. Is to you get 2, 5, and then your 1 chord. Very typically, you'll see stuff like this, where you have 1 chord for 2 bars. It happens in a lot of tunes, okay? I can go C sharp diminished 7, D minor 7, D sharp diminished 7, okay? Sorry that I went over that bar line there. Ooh, I hate doing that. That's the perfectionist in Rick here, even though I'm not a perfectionist. So that would be this kind of a thing. You've heard this a million times, but be 2, 5. So you've got okay. That would be a C diminished 7. C sharp diminished 7 is a diminished 7. So it'd be a 7 diminished 7 of 2, right? Resolving to 2. This would be a 7 diminished 7. Whoops. Diminished 7 of 3, really. If you were to go to E minor 7, for example. That would be a way of filling it in. A lot of times when you have a 3-6-2-5 progression at the end of a tune, you'll be faced with these kind of things where you'll say, you might go E minor 7, whoops, A7, D minor 7, G7, and instead of going to C, then you go to C major 7, then you go to C sharp diminished 7, D minor 7, D sharp diminished 7, winding back around to E minor 7, okay? Because that D sharp diminished 7 is the diminished 7, secondary diminished 7 of 3. Okay, so you get 3, 6, and I used a secondary dominant here, so this is the analysis. 3, 5, 7 of 2, to 2, 7, to 5, 7, to 1, major 7, to the secondary diminished 7 of 2, to 2, to the diminished 7 of 3, back to 3. 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, diminished 7 of 2, 2, diminished 7 of 3, back to 3. Okay? So that would sound like this. So you got 2, 5, I'm sorry, 3, 6, secondary dominant, 2, 2, 5, 1. If I do it like, let me do it in rhythm here. 3, 4, so. Now these kind of things you would use in something like rhythm changes. These are common substitutions. Carol?
Yeah.
So if you're playing rhythm changes, you might want to move the thing
Oh,
down. If you're playing rhythm changes in B flat, you know, typically so many times though you'll play we go like 2, 1, 6, 2, 5. So 1, secondary diminished 7 of 2, 2, secondary diminished 7 of 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. So that would be the kind of line that you'd play. I'm going, I'm okay, so there. So that sound is a really great substitute for 1-6-2-5, is using those secondary diminished seventh chords. They're almost the same as using a secondary dominant chord. If you think of it, a secondary diminished seventh chord is really just a substitute for a secondary dominant chord. I'll show you how. It's pretty simple. Say you got, let's say you've got, if you have this chord progression, right? C major 7 to C sharp diminished 7, D minor 7 to D sharp. The progression we've been using, diminished 7, okay? This chord, if you take the notes of it, if I put an A in the base of this, you have an A7 flat 9, okay? Because the notes in this chord are the upper extensions of A7 flat 9. Here's an A7 flat 9 chord. So you got 1, then you take 3, 5, 7, 9, right? 3, 5, flat 7, flat 9. There's your C sharp diminished. If I put an A in the bass, it becomes just an A7 flat 9. Same thing with this. This is a B7 flat 9. It's a substitute. It's just a rootless one. That's why secondary diminished seventh chords, Carol, is that?
Yeah.
Can they see it?
Yep.
That's why these progressions work. They are related. So a secondary diminished seventh chord and a secondary dominant chord are almost the same thing. It's just a replacement of the root. So A7 would, in this case, would be a 5-7 of 2, because it's going to D minor 7, and a C sharp diminished 7 is a secondary diminished 7 of 2, which is resolving to 2 minor 7, right? Both of those are, but they're virtually the same chord progression, okay? This is just this is this chord without the A in the root, okay? That's kind of why those two work together. That's how they evolved, actually, okay? It's just a further, it gives you a little stronger root movement because this is a half step away from going to the D minor, right? The C sharp diminished 7 is pushing towards the root a little bit more. So it's the difference between hearing this or hearing this. Or not that big a difference, okay? When you're doing a reharmonization, it's that you can see how those are related. Okay, next we're going to talk about that kind of further clarifies when I was talking about those secondary dominants on the last episode, okay? Now we're going to talk about predominance. You guys that have followed my channel know about this, and if you have the Beato book, you know about this. And by the way, buy the Beato book. Support the channel. 461 pages, new version 2.3 or 2.2. What is it? 2.2. Predominant chords as a sub. So this is when you get into things where you just have a dominant chord. Let's say you got a blues or something, and you got, let's say you have a progression like this, D7 for 2 bars. A lot of musicians will freak out G7 for 2 bars, C7 for 2 bars, and F7 for 2 bars. People are like, oh man, I don't know what to do with this. How do I make this sound more interesting? Well, I mean, you can do things like this that you're playing, and you can take a dominant chord, a G7 chord, and go. So I'm doing. I'm doing a bunch of. I'm actually adding some chromatic passing chords and things like that. But really simply, I can 2 the 5. 2ing the 5 means I can put the 2 chord before each 5 chord, okay? So in this case, the D7 chord, which goes in both bars, I'll put the D7 here, and I'm going to 2 the 5, meaning I'm going to put the 2 chord of the D7, which is A minor 7, 2ing the 5. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to 2 this G7 chord. G7 chord is the 5 chord in the key of C. The 2 chord is going to be D minor 7, okay? These are all modulations. C7, that's the 5 chord in the key of F. I'm going to put it here. I'm not 2 it. I'm going to put a G minor 7 there. F7 is the 5 chord in the key of B flat. I'm going to put the F7 here. I'm going to put C minor 7 there. That's the 2 in the key of B flat. Let me show you the keys here. This here is G major. This here is C major. This here is F major. And this is B flat major, okay? This is what I call a cyclical progression. It's the cycle of fifths. G, C, F, B flat. You're moving one key in a flat direction around the circle of fifths. Now, because of that, this makes it more interesting to solo on, okay? Because you're not just sticking on one dominant chord, okay? So, Carol. So if I'm playing, instead of playing, which is really boring, and a lot of people are thinking, well, what do I play on that? What do I play on D7 for 2 bars? Well, if you're thinking A minor 7, right? So I played. And I resolved to the 5th of G7, so. And I played D minor 7. And then I resolved it to the B flat of the G minor 7. Resolved to the flat 7 of C minor 7. Okay, so I played. Okay, so there I'm improvising over this, but I'm thinking A minor 7 to D7 flat 5. D minor 7, G7 flat 5, G minor 7, and I'm doing, I did C minor 7, and I went to F7 altered. So, A minor 7, D7, D minor 7, G7 flat 5, G minor 7, C7 sharp 5, C minor 7, F7 sharp 9. Okay, so that, in that way I'm soloing over that, and I'm not just thinking, oh, what am I going to play? You're thinking like, boy, I get really bored. I'm just playing Mixolydian on this. I don't know what to play. The more chords you put in here, you start improvising over those, reharmonizing them, and you can play some more interesting things. You can also back cycle. You can do some of the other things that we've talked about already. Put in some secondary dominance in here. I could go A minor 7, E7, D7. Okay, I'm going to go D minor 7, A7 to G. I'm sorry, A minor 7, E7, A minor 7, D7. That would be a way of using a secondary dominant there. Okay, so I can keep making this more complex. Just take that first bar there, right? I go A minor 7, hold on, make it like this. Instead of going D7, right, for 2 bars, I can go the sub, A minor 7, E7 flat 9, A minor 7, D7, G7, okay? That's in lieu of that right there. So this is your substitute chord changes. 2 minor 7, 5, 7 of 2, 2, 7, 5, 7. Obviously we can make this a flat 9 if you'd like, doesn't matter. Then you're down to your 5, to your 1, 7 chord, essentially that is, okay? That's a cadence, but it's really 5 of 5 there, okay? So this substitute chord progression here makes it more interesting because you get more harmonic movement going on. Okay, so that's using predominance. The cycle of fifths. The cycle of fifths, we talked about a little bit, because this chord progression here is a cycle of fifths. Okay, so we'll use that. Okay, so that, if I had D7 for 2 bars and G7 for 2 bars, let's say. That's not uncommon. And then let's say resolve to C major 7, something like that, okay? So, using the cycle, what I do is, if I'm going to use this, I'm going to go here to the last 2 beats before the C major 7, I'm going to put a G7 chord there, okay? That's going to be my intersecting chord. That's the 5 of this C major 7. Then I'm going to back cycle from there. I'm going to use a cycle of fifths. I'm going to go D7. I'm going to go, take this out of here. I'm going to go A7, E7. You can always stop this and rewind it and go over it again. I can go B7, F sharp 7. Okay, then I go back to C sharp 7, or what do you want to call it? A D flat 7 to A flat 7. So here's my other chords that I had here. D7, right? G7, C major 7, okay? This is back cycling. So this would sound like this. So I've got okay. So I start up here. Now, what do you notice here? A flat 7 is the flat 5 of this. It's actually a tritone sub. So the cycle would start. You can start the cycle anywhere you want. You could start it in this bar and do the substitutes here and just do 2 bars of it. So you could do D7 for 2 bars. 1, 2. Okay? You can do it anywhere. It's nice though if you do it on a, like in a 4-bar section and everything, so you can really get the sound of that cycle out of there. And if you go on my Beato book, I have a bunch of cycle exercises where you could start on A7 or A flat 7, and you could play these kind of things here. I go. So that would be playing over those chords. A flat 7, D flat 7. Okay, so I got, that's A flat 7. Then, okay, so I am playing lines through the cycle of fifths over those chord changes there, okay? So right there I started A flat 7, D flat 7, F sharp 7, B7, E7, A7, D7, G7, resolving to the 3rd of C major 7, okay? So I'm following along through that cycle. You heard Pat Metheny do that all the time. He does a lot of things like that. You don't have to play straight 8th notes. You gotta. Okay, so that would be an example there where I just broke it up. But I'm doing a lot of 3rd to 7th resolutions, okay? So that's using the cycle. Now, if, the next thing to do is tritone substitutes, okay? How's everybody doing so far, Carol? Are they with me?
Yeah.
Okay, tritone substitutes are exactly what they sound like. You're gonna substitute I'm gonna use a simple 2-5-1 in the key of C. Typically, they are a flat 5 substitute for the dominant chord. So the tritone sub is going to be D flat 7, going to C major 7, okay? So it's gonna be D minor 7 to D flat 7 to C major 7. So it's a flat 5, 7 of 5. Okay? That is your tritone substitute, and that sounds like this. 2 tritone sub. So it has natural bass movement that's chromatic. Now, why does it work though? That's the question. Well, I'll tell you why it works. One of the reasons it works is because of this. This chord, if I put a G in the bass, if you get a G7, this D flat 9 chord with a G in the bass, this is the flat 5, flat 7, third, and the sharp 5, okay? So it's simply, it works exactly the same way as the secondary diminished 7th chord. It's out of the same scale. If I play G altered dominant, that comes from A flat melodic minor. If I play D flat mixolydian sharp 11, that comes from A flat altered or A flat melodic minor. They're both, those two chords, this is one of the reasons why it works. Those two chords are both in the key of A flat melodic minor. So G7 sharp 5 equals D7 or D flat, 9. Okay, if you look at the notes in the chord, they all come from A flat melodic minor. This is the 7th chord in A flat melodic minor. G7 is the 7th chord of this scale. So if you have the scale, you have A flat, B flat. Theoretically, you'd go to C flat next, D flat, E flat, F flat, G flat. Wait, yeah. So F flat G. Wait. This is tricky because it's really confusing. Because if I'm doing a G7 chord, this is where you get into all this weird enharmonic spelling, okay? Because the A flat is the flat 9, the B flat is the sharp 9, the C flat is the third of the G7, right? G7, whatever, sharp 9, flat 5, whatever it might be, it's altered. So you start getting all these altered notes in here. D flat is the flat 5 or the sharp 4. E flat is the flat 6 or the flat 13. And then F is the flat 7 of G7, okay? If I do a D flat 9 chord here, A flat is the 5th, B flat is the 6th or the 13, right? 6. C flat is the flat 7, D flat is the root, E flat is the 9, F is the 3rd. Okay? These are all the same. What did I forget? Oh, C flat, right? Where did I miss here? B flat. I'll do it like this. You got D flat is the oh, I'm sorry. I'm doing that of the, this is the root. A flat is the 5th, right, that's right. B flat is the 6th. C flat, okay, is the flat 7. That's what I missed. Then you got the root, the 9th, or the 2nd, and the 3rd, right? 9th and the 2nd are the same thing. but there's your D flat 9 chord. It's all the same notes because they all come, both these scales, both these chords come from A flat melodic minor. That's why the tritone substitute works, okay? But it works for voice leading purposes, right? Or I just used the two progressions. Here's the 2, 5, the 5 chord having a sharp 5 to the 1, or 2, flat 2, or tritone sub to 1. They sound almost identical, just the root is different, okay? So that tritone substitute can also be used with a flat, with a 2 chord, okay? You could really go, instead of D minor 7, G7, C major 7, you could go A flat minor 7 to G7 to C major 7. Okay, that would be a flat 2 substitute. So instead of 2, 5, 1, you can go 2, 5, 1. Okay? So instead of 2, 5, 1, flat 2 minor 7, 5, 7, 1 major 7. That's one that jazz players don't use that much. It's actually very cool. And why does that work? Because this is really the 2 chord of the tritone substitute, right? So that would be a different reharm. 2, 5, 1. You hear Wes Montgomery use that all the time. That's a very common old school bebop thing to do this. But you can really think of it as just doing this. Just using that chord to G7. Works great. Gives you the same kind of things. But it really comes from this tritone sub here. This is the 2 of the 5. That's 2ing the 5, right? It's a tritone away from this chord here. This is a tritone away from that chord. Make sense? So you can always start on the minor 7th chord, a tritone away from your 2 chord, and use that as a substitution, okay? So that's your tritone subs. That's a very basic explanation of it. In the Beato book, there's tons of examples and gets into it in much, much greater detail. Okay, the Coltrane changes. Once again, I've got tons of stuff on this, but essentially it's this. You got D minor 7. Coltrane changes actually originated from John Coltrane writing the substitutes over the song Tune Up by Miles Davis. Okay, and Tune Up is just a series of 2 5 1s starting E minor 7, A7, D major 7, then D minor 7, G7, C major 7, then C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7. So he's like, well, how can I make that more interesting? So he came up with these Coltrane changes that use these third degree modulations, thirds related modulations. So once again, I got 2 5 1. Okay. So Coltrane would take D minor 7, then he'd move up a half step to E flat 7, and that would be a 5-1 cadence to A flat major 7. Okay, so it's up a half step to A flat major 7, and then you go to B7, E major 7, G7 to C major 7. Okay, so that would be like, okay, that's where that works, and that works because I didn't have my second bar of C major 7 there included. That would be like that. There's my C major 7, because in tune-up it's really a 4-bar progression, 2 5 1 for 2 bars. Okay. And it's one of these things, again, where you're intersecting that chord progression. I could probably write that a little bit clearer if I don't want to cram this thing here. Let me do it like this. I'll make it a little bit smaller. So you got D minor 7, G7, C major 7, C major 7. Let's just do it like that so it's more obvious, okay? Then you go D minor 7, E flat 7, A flat major 7, B7. Let me extend my bars here. Oh, I hate that. E major 7, G 7, C major 7. So here you move up a half step to the 5 of A flat, 5 1. Then you move up a third from A flat. You go up a minor third to B7, right? And you do 5 1 in E. Then you move up a minor third, E to G, 5 1 in C. Okay, or 5 1. Here's where your modulation. So it's up a half step up here, 5 1, minor third up, 5 1, minor third up, 5 1. Okay, that's the Coltrane changes there. It's actually pretty simple. You just have to know those intervals of how to move between them. That's how that chord progression works. And improvising over that, if you have this basic 2-5-1 progression like that, put these changes in there. It'll sound great. You can do it comping, you can do it in your soloing. It makes your lines way more interesting and makes your arrangement, if you're doing a big band arrangement or whatever, and you want to put that in there, doing a sax solo or something, sound killer. Okay? So that's your Coltrane changes. The last thing that we're going to talk about are modal changes. Okay? Modal changes are kind of related to the same thing, but you're using the modes that are, this would be more modal interchange. G7, C major 7. So if I take the basic, sorry about my handwriting there, kills my hand to write. If I take the modes that go along with these chords, this would be D dorian, right? Because you're in C major, to G mixolydian, to C Ionian. Now, if I mix the modes, I could take this Dorian and I could make it Phrygian, D Phrygian. This G mixolydian, I could make it altered dominant. And I could take the C Ionian and make it C Lydian augmented. This would be more of a modal interchange here. So, a D Phrygian chord, so instead of a straight D Dorian, here's D Phrygian. To G altered, okay, to C Lydian augmented. So, 2, 5, 1. Okay, that would be modal interchange. It could be this, 2 to 5 like this, to 1. Okay, it's kind of a cool sound there. I did my 2 chord here, 2. I'm doing an E flat over D. Here's the scale. You can hear that D Phrygian. And then I go to this chord, G altered. To the C Lydian augmented. Right? It's hard to hold the guitar up like this and play. But that would be modal interchange. I'm just exchanging the regular modes for more exotic sounding modes over the chords. Okay? Questions? Carol, any questions? Now everybody's got this down, right?
Yeah,
Pretty
I mean,
much?
I saw some questions, but people in the chat have been answering them, like,
Yes!
so.
Love it!
And Nari's on.
What's up, Nari? What's happening?
I don't know. Send some questions in, guys, if you guys have something.
If you have any questions, they're all in the Beato book. Get it now. Also, I have new merch, Everything Music t-shirts, and I have my cheat sheet mugs, which are amazing. So these are, I have mugs that are all the different triads and with their formulas. Augmented, major, or augmented, Lydian, sus4, major, minor, diminished, sus2, Phrygian, and Locrian triads and what their formulas are. I have the melodic minor mug, which gives you all the modes of the melodic minor. Melodic minor, Dorian flat 2, Lydian augmented, mixed Lydian sharp 11, mixed Lydian flat 6, Locrian natural 2, altered dominant. Then I have all the modes of the harmonic minor scale and all their formulas. I have all the modes of the double harmonic major scale, and I have all the modes of the harmonic major scale and what their formulas are. So when you're drinking your morning coffee, when you buy the mug, you're like, man, I'm going to memorize these modes of the harmonic minor scale. I've been wanting to learn these for the last 10 years. So you're going to take a sip of your coffee and you're going to look at it and you go, oh, what is this? Dorian sharp 4. Okay, oh, I get this. Yeah, 1, 2, flat 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, flat 7. And you start learning the formulas. The hard ones are the double harmonic major scale when you start getting into ultra Phrygian and things like that. If you want to see examples of that, look at my video that I did with Nare called the modes of the double harmonic major scale. We did a video, we wrote a piece together that goes through all 7 modes of that scale. But to learn the formulas, it's very, very tricky. So that's why buy the mugs and you're going to learn these things, all right? You should buy the whole set. I didn't put the major ones in there. I don't have a major mug because everybody should know that. But everybody should really know the melodic minor ones. If you don't, though, get it. And each time you learn those, you drink coffee for a couple months out of that cup, wash it every day, and then move on to your next one, all right? Then you'll have these down. Because if you're a musician, you need to drink a lot of coffee, okay? Matter of fact, I'm going to get some right now. Anyways, any questions, Carol? Are we good? You guys are awesome. Remember to subscribe here and subscribe to my live channel where I go on every night. Not every night, but most nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we have a lot of fun there. That's where I kind of decide. I play songs I'm thinking about, what makes this song great. If I'm thinking about doing that, I go test the songs on there and I see people's opinion and I see if the videos get blocked. That's my testing ground. Although Queens of the Stone Age I played there and it still got blocked anyways. It doesn't get blocked if you have a low subscriber count, apparently. They don't care about that. Anyways, this is great. You guys are awesome. I'll see you next time. Thanks, Carol.